we're recording. Um, so let me start with having you say your name, your preferred title, and the date.
My name is Joyce Redeemer. First name spelled Joyce. Last name spelled Redeemar. Um, my preferred title, um, just call me by Joyce. Um, and today is Saturday, June 27th, 2026.
Awesome. Um, let's start with you. Just tell me about yourself.
Okay. Well, um, I am a mom of two um, children, grandma of two grandchildren, teenage grandchildren. Um, I work in the human resources, non for profit organization, local government. Um, I'm kind of artsy, but I don't draw or anything like that. I like to bake and like to cook. I'm a homebody, but I also love anything in the arts. Um, Going to art shows, museums, dance, um, anything like that. Um, I think I'm pretty boring. I don't know. I'm the baby of eight, and I'm a twin. I'm the baby of the twins. I grew up here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Attended school 110 in elementary in kindergarten. Also attended school 37, school 71. Graduated from Arlington. Go Golden Knights. And I try to be politically aware and active. I am currently a state delegate. Um, Last year I was a vice PC, but this year I am not. Um, I grew up in the Martindale Brightwood area um, and raised my children, especially my youngest child, in this area. But I now live on the northwest side of Indy in Pike Township.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So when you think of Martindale Brightwood, what comes to mind?
Mm. Community, um, family, um, opportunity. Um, I was blessed enough in 2001 to be approved for Habitat Humanity in build in Brightwood, Martindale. So the build took a little less than a year, and so in 2002 we were able to move into our home that I helped build, um, and so that was an opportunity that opened up the ability for me to be able to go to college, to have a stable home for my children. It was actually my first home. Um, it gave me the opportunity to be an adult, so to speak, with even though I had a great foundation with my family and was an adult, it gave me the ability to make decisions, make payments, things like that on my own that I had never done. And so um, it just gives me a lot of fond memories. Everything was in walking distance. Um, Brightwood Martindale just has a lot of memories. Even though when I was a child, I didn't live directly in Brightwood Martindale, we lived adjacent. So we came in this area all the time and visited Cash Bargain Center. There was a um, beauty shop called Ramona's where we got our hair done. Um, there was also Roslyn Bakery, which is right up 30th Street, and we went there on a regular basis, like on Sundays after church to get treats. Douglas Park, which is um, not really Brightwood Martindale. It is okay. It's Brightwood Martindale. I'm trying to think what the other adjacent neighborhood is, but I forget. But I grew up really crosstown, and that's where my father's home was at. So we were always in this area, barbecue heaven, all of those things. I remember when the fire department was right across Dr. Andrew J. Brown and all of that. So just a lot of memories. My brother worked at a store called Armor Grawls, which is no longer there, but it was right at 25th and Dr. Andrew J. Brown. My uncle went to church um, at St. Andrews, I think it was. So all this area over here is just like very familiar.
So, what made Martindale Brightwood feel like home?
Mm, that's kind of a odd question because it's not really easy. It just was when I was able to build my home. I actually got bumped up because one of the participants dropped out and didn't want to live in this area. So I was supposed to be in the next build, which I don't even know where that was because they don't tell you until it's time, or at least back then they didn't tell you the location until it was time. And so they called me and it was like, somebody dropped out. We want to bump you up. Um, this is the location. Go look at it. Go kind of meet the neighbors. Let us know if it feels like where you would want to live or if you want to, wait to the next build. And I came over here and it instantly felt like home. Like the area, the people were friendly. I had never met any of them. Um, the location of where my home was, everything about it just felt very natural and very like it was where I was supposed to be. And so at that time, there was no home or anything. It was just the land and where they had started to build. Um, and like I just instantly was like, yes, I can see myself living here, raising my family here. Um, and again, I was already familiar with it um, from childhood memories, so it was very nostalgic. It just brought back a lot of memories, and it just felt very comfortable. Um, I mean, to sum it up, that's just it. It just was a natural feeling.
No, that's great. Or the questions are meant to be like kind of open ended so that like people can just plug in what they think. So what does wealth mean to you, and then like in Martindale Brightwood, like tell us a little bit about that.
So wealth to me is not necessarily financial. There is a financial piece to it, of course, because like Maslow's theory, you need all the essentials to survive. But for me, wealth is that feeling of home, that feeling of comfort, um, being able to build and have a safe environment for yourself or your family. And even with this, for instance, having been able to build and purchase a home to leave at a reasonable price and then leave it for my family as a legacy, that to me is wealth. To build for myself to hopefully generational, where it either is a home for them, maybe my grandchildren or great grandchildren if they need it, and or potentially at some point if it's necessary to sell it to help them then build their wealth out. But hopefully it's going to be a family home and stay in our family for for eternity. So to me that's what wealth is. And then in relationship to Brightwood Martindale, the growth that I've seen, even though I'm not here now that it is a family home and family does live, my daughter and her children live in this home, to see the new library and to see the CDC and what they're doing, and to see hopefully other improvements. I've seen them going in and fixing the streets, and they came. I was fortunate enough because my house was built, like I said, in 2001. Where I didn't need the new pipes that citizens put in, but they came in and checked for all the lead, and anybody that had old pipes, they took them out. So to me, that's wealth. To even if it's slow and incremental growth, just to see the growth and the changes in the neighborhood.
Thank you. So we'll go from that idea describe what a healthy and wealthy Martindale Brightwood would look like to you.
Mm, a healthy and wealthy Brightwood Martindale would look like a couple different things that we're lacking still. One of those would be um, a solid financial place, banking, where it's within walking distance, um, because everyone here doesn't necessarily have a vehicle. Another thing would be um, potentially like a healthcare center, like they have the Raphael Healthcare Center, things like that, a clinic where people could go to in the neighborhood. There's a lot of children still that's in this area, a lot of older senior citizens, and while they do have different programs for them to be able to get buses and our transportation there and all that, just to have it in the neighborhood would be great. And then of course there's a while there is a new store that's about maybe less than 5 miles from here. I can't remember the name of it. It might be, it's not Fresh Market, but it's a market that's at 38th and Fresh Market 38th in Arlington, right adjacent to that. I've been there and it's beautiful. I would love to have something like that in Brightwood, Martindale. There used to be a Double Eight or 7-Eleven in Double Eight, and there is Safeway, but Safeway needs quite a bit of updating. And I would like to see something more stable and something that offers um, maybe some like more of a um, fresh food, fresh produce, something that's more healthy. So like a market, what's it called when you go the markets on the weekend? Uh, like a farmer's market, more atmosphere. There is a Chuck's Market, but it's on the other side of Emerson, and it's a highway, so that's not really viable. So something like that, maybe even a neighborhood garden, where individuals could, participate, grow fruits and vegetables, and even plants. I think that would be a healthy and viable Brightwood Martindale. Um, I do love that, like I said, the growth and the changes, but they're small and incremental. I think that if there is a property owner that doesn't, that is more of a corporation, they need to do better at taking care of the properties that belong to them, and making sure that the individuals, the tenants they rent to, are either taking care of the property or that they are then circling back and taking care of it, whether it's cutting the grass or keeping the upkeep on the homes. I see a little bit of that. Um, and I am personally working or trying to scope out that if I see a negative house or grass too high or something of that nature, and I come through and I see it again a week later, then I call the Board of Health because I want to help maintain Brightwood Martindale. And it might sound like, a little bit strange, but I think everybody in the community, whether it's directly you live in the community or you live somewhere adjacent or you live in Indianapolis, Indiana, period, you're responsible for making sure that we take care of one another, whether it's directly in your neighborhood or somewhere else. Another thing I'd like to see is um, schools back in our neighborhood, like directly. Like it's fine if you want to have the option to send your child to a charter school or school out in the suburbs, but I think a lot of people would love to see kindergarten through 8th grade back in the neighborhood where the kids didn't have to get up an extra hour early to catch the bus and ride. That would add a lot of value back to their lives, not only the parents, but the kids. They need that rest. And so I remember when we lived in Crosstown, we could walk to School 110. When we lived on Rural, which is also Brightwood Martindale, we could walk to 37, which is now 37th Place. If something happened and you got sick, you're close enough to home to get there and, get rested or, different things. I see the value in the other type of school organizations, but I grew up in IPS, public school, and I believe that foundationally, if we have our schools in our neighborhoods and have people who look like us, who are highly educated, teach our children, that'll also maintain our history and give our children a sense of pride and also a sense of history that is missing in our culture.
That was awesome. Great answer. So we'll go towards uh, kind of like the future of the neighborhood. Like, what do you describe the future of Martindale Brightwood? Like, what you want to see and what you do see coming.
So I don't necessarily know what is coming. What I would like to see again is viable banking, schools back in our neighborhood, more than one grocery store, a store that offers, like I said, like a fresh market type of environment. Or, I mean, I personally, thanks to my children and them going to college and educating me, my horizon has expanded. So I like sushi. I like salads. I like all these different things that are not necessarily served in our neighborhood. But if you go to Myers or Kroger, which you have to have a vehicle to get to, those things are available. So I'd like to see that because if you look around Brightwood, Martindale, there are a lot of changes. There is a lot of multicultural families that are here. So it's not just, it's predominantly African American still, but you do see people of non-color in the neighborhood. And those experiences, I think, would be something that a store could provide because you don't always want fried chicken. You want other things. Um, Another thing I did mention that I'd like to see is a park, like a really nice park in this area that is close enough to walk to, that's not as far as Douglas Park. Maybe a couple neighborhood parks on some of these empty lots. Um, I think there is expansion coming when you see them improving streets and doing small incremental changes. Um, that suggests to me, not necessarily that I'm right, but that there could be some potential gentrification coming. So I'd like to see um, the community come together or organizations to come together to create grants or programs to help the individuals that already live here, especially senior citizens who have already worked and retired, to maintain their homes and be able to have that stability. I also really, really would like to see some type of programming for our young adults. And when I say young adults, um, I think we have to start when kids are as little as 6 years old in kindergarten, exposing them to what other opportunities are there, teaching them about politics, about banking, financing. How money is important. Have little games where they earn money and then they can buy little prizes or little things so they understand the value of their money and how they need to save. So things like that. So those are just some of the things I'd like to see. I do, like I said, I do see changes coming. I don't know what they are, but I'm trying to keep tabs on those so that as they come, I can be readily involved or help navigate those changes. Especially since like I said, I have a home here that is also my legacy for my children. That will be their home as well. So
No, that's amazing. Y'all have such good answers. Let's see what else. Pets are going great.
yeah, maybe have less pets in the neighborhood. But I think they're talking to each other. I think there was one that came out when I was parking, and then the other one started barking back and forth. So think they're just having a conversation. Oh, there's somebody walking down the street. That's what it is.
Okay. If someone who had never been here asked you what Martindale Brightwood feels like, what would you tell
Mm. I would say if you don't know Brightwood, Martindale, and you're just passing by, you would see, you would be on the outside looking in, and you would see a low income neighborhood. You may even see a level of poverty. But if you've been here and you know Brightwood, Martindale, I think you'd see again the history. I think you see the community. The post office has been here forever. When I go into that post office when I lived here, and even now that I don't, when I occasionally go there, the people are very friendly. They know you. Um, they talk to you. You don't feel like a number. You don't feel like just a person. Um, when I lived here, our neighbors always waved. Um, we saw good and bad, but overall, it was always just comfortable. It was always okay to sit on your porch and have a cup of coffee when the sun came up, or sit out there and on the side porch, do grilling and have family over. Um, for me, Brightwood, Martindale, if you know it, you know that while there are things that go on and there's negative behaviors, it's really a positive place to be. It always has been. It's always been about community. It's always been about um, reach one, teach one, take care of each other. And that's why when I came and they offered me the opportunity to live here, it just felt very natural. And I think that is what I feel and see when I think of Brightwood Martindale.
me? No, I love that. So, um, we got a few more questions that I'll go
Okay.
over. Tell me about a place in the neighborhood that feels connected to who you are. I mean, obviously the house, but you can choose
Yeah.
the house or choose somewhere else.
Mm. So I think the place that feels connected to me the most would be the house, just because when I was blessed enough to move here and build and move here, I was going through transition where my mother was ill. And so mostly what I did was slept here and, made it secure for my children. But daily we got up and, had to go to school, drop the kids off. Then after I got off work, picked them up, went over to my mom's and stayed until 8, 9 o'clock at night. That's where we ate dinner. That's where we communed as a family. And then we came home and slept. So I feel like the one of the main reasons that I'm more connected to the home or the memory more than anything else is because when I came here, it was a place of rest, a place of peace, a place of quiet. Not that taking care of my mom was um, difficult, but it was from the time we got up until we came back across the threshold of this home, we were moving constantly, doing something, taking care of someone, working, educating. It wasn't just me, but my children got up early so we could drop one at daycare, drop the other at school. They were busy, educating, living lives, participating in activities, growing. And so just parking in front of the house and then walking up the steps and coming in where it was very quiet and very peaceful. Everybody had their own space. We could commune together in the living room, or go to our own space. It was great. My eat-in kitchen area is small, but it was always like a source of laughter, sitting together, eating, opening the kitchen windows, letting the fresh air in. So it was just a place of peace and rest and um, building out my own individual family.
No, I love that. Right. I can say because I was there. Very accurate. Um, when did you realize that Martindale Brightwood was an important part of who you are?
I don't know that I ever wholly realized that. Um, in conversations like now, it becomes more apparent. Um, I know that one of the things that happened here recently is that they were talking about building a data center, and there's a lot of negative things that result from that. And with my daughter, helping kind of lead that fight, I kind of understood more about what the data centers were and are. And so I think that was one of the precipice points that made the reality of what I could lose and what damage it could cause, not to just me and my family, but the people who may not have the ability to move out of here and relocate. So I think that may be when I realized like how important or significant Brightwood Martindale was to me. I think a lot of times when you have something, even though when you initially move in, you have the appreciation, you're like, I love this, my own home, my own space. You eventually, it becomes part of your regular routine, monotonous, and you forget to be grateful. It becomes routine. Like, this is my house, this is where I go, blah, blah, blah. You don't think about what could happen if it's taken away from you or it's no longer there. So I think, as crazy as it sounds, we moved in 2002. It's now 2026. So 24 years later is when I realized like how important and how dear Brightwood Martindale is to me as a whole.
Awesome. Wow. What an answer. So we have a few more questions. So who are the people that helped shape this neighborhood for you?
Mm. So I guess directly Brightwood Martindale, it would be, I never thought about that, but it would be again a host of people. Even though as a child we didn't live directly in Martindale Brightwood, my uncle lives just outside of the lines of Brightwood Martindale. He lives at like 32nd and Chester. We grew up between Emerson and 38th across to like 34th. So we were always in that area. My friends lived right up the street. They were bused to Southport because at that time we were bused. So all of that had an influence on us. And again, not even realizing as children that our mom is bringing us to this area because this is Brightwood Martindale was a cornerstone for African Americans. You have um, well, Martin University is now shut down and bought by a church, but you had Martin University, which was one of the first black colleges that was received notably that black people attended here. You had the library, even though they have a new library, there was a library strip that we could go to, and we always saw people like us, and it was welcoming and open. Ramona's, where you could go get your hair done. Again, Cash Bargain Center was a regular place we shopped. We shopped at Value City and other places too, which a lot of younger people wouldn't know it, like Zayres and maybe even Kmart. But I mean, we didn't frequent malls like we do now, like Castleton or, um, well, there's the other two malls are predominantly closed too, but Circle Center Mall, we didn't frequent those type of places. If we occasionally went downtown, we would go maybe to Ellis Ayres or Woolworth where they had a counter and have lunch. And that was like a special treat. So I think just the community and the fact that our churches was here. My uncle's church is right down the street. I actually pastored on the way here to come talk with Sierra. It's Church of Christ. So just all of those things that were in this neighborhood, going to Rosalind Bakery on a Sunday morning or occasionally after school or something like that. Barbecue Heaven right up the street at Crosstown. All of those things having that history and that connection that you don't even know that you have, I think shaped the neighborhood. Um, I know that we had leaders, generally um, church leaders, things of that nature. But I'm going to definitely say both my parents. And even, like I said, growing up in Crosstown, which wasn't directly here, um, there was a wealth of neighborhood. We had the Oakleys and I can't remember some of the other people, but all of us, we were connected. There was a basketball court where our brothers used to go play basketball right down the street. They would have different functions and events. I remember very specifically when we were over visiting my dad that there was a Halloween party and it was a neighborhood party. So it was a safe space. Everybody could go to it. And we all went and enjoyed that party. Of course, I got scared and my dad had to come pick me up. But just, I do remember that. I remember there was always a host of activities. There was St. Peter Claver. When we were older, we kind of went there and had little dances and different things. And then later, um, that became a place where my daughter went to Catholic school. So just all of those things kind of shaped my experience and my memories of Wrightwood Martindale. And so that's, I don't remember a specific person. I just remember community, you know, being connected that way.
That's great. What do you hope never disappears from Martindale, right?
Us. I hope that we as a people, African American people, we people of color, never are moved out or pushed out of Martindale Brightwood. I hope that as things do develop and grow, that there are either programs or that the people that live here find a way to stay connected, stay involved, and make sure that we take care of one another. Um, a lot of times you look and you see, I'm going to give you a prime example. My parents lived at 46th and Carrollton, which is right off of 46th and College. When we moved over there, when my daughter was a baby before we moved here, that was predominantly a black neighborhood. And it was individuals who had good jobs, nurses, doctors, lawyers. Um, it was an influential neighborhood. And as those individuals die out or things have happened, lost homes, it became gentrification. They shut things down. There was nothing forever until you saw the gentrification. And all of a sudden, they took the buildings that were shut down and then made them um, trendy restaurants or trendy clothing stores. Um, and you walk through the neighborhood and you don't see a lot of us anymore over there. I'm fine with having a mixed neighborhood. I'm fine with having people of non-color live near me, socialize with me, and love me. I love them, but I want to see us have the ability to thrive. I want local government to value our neighborhoods. Um, when you send the individuals to pick up our trash, give them enough time to do their route properly, hire more staff. Um, don't just send a two-man truck where they have to jump on and off. Get a truck that's auto, has an auto arm, so that they can rest and they can pick up the trash and take care of our neighborhoods, things of that nature. So what I hope never disappears from Brightwood Martindale is somebody, a lot of somebodies that look like me or look like my daughter or look like my grandchildren.
Um, that's hard to follow up. Okay, one more, I guess. um, what do you hope people never forget about Martindale, right?
I hope they never forget all of the things that it took to make Martindale Brightwood what it is. Um, the Catholic Church, Um, help me with the name. Um,
St. Rita's.
St. Rita's, Father Barnabas, everything they did. Um, I have had the pleasure as an adult to meet Phyllis Carr. She's a huge influence on this neighborhood. She's still out there doing NAACP. Um, I hope that people never forget that this is a community that loves one another, that takes care of one another, even in the quiet moments where you don't see it. Um, I hope they never forget what it is to be a Black person. Um, I think we come in all shades, all colors, um, from different lands. I think we come from different levels of education. But I think all of that together is what makes us unique and what makes Brightwood, Martindale the soul of this area.
All right. Anything else you want to say to the people, Mom?
I just want to say that I feel very blessed that I was able to move into Brightwood, Martindale. Um, when I was accepted into the Habitat for Humanity program, I did not know this is where I was going to land. And I always say that I'm very spiritual. I used to be highly religious, but I'm more spiritual now. And I believe that God, our higher power, makes no mistakes. Everything that we do, is connected. And it may not see the result or know why it's happening now. But if we just take a deep breath and try to enjoy what's going on around us, then everything that's meant to be will be, and everything will come to fruition. So you have to move through where you're at now to hopefully see where you're going to be in the future.
Thank you for this time and this wisdom.
Oh,
You know, you're
thank
like
you.
my favorite person. She doesn't say it enough, but she deserves all her things. She got a master's degree. She talking about people educating her, and she's with it. Like, like she's not over there packing the big degrees.
Well, I mean, that was with the help again of being able to move into Brightwood, Martindale, and even you. I remember I was like, I got another baby. You know, they're 15 years apart, my two kids, and I was like, I got to take good care of him like I did you. And you're like, go to college now. He won't know any different. And we'll all pitch in. And she was right. You were right. I was able to finish my degree with being able to move here, having the support of you at 15 years old, giving me wise advice. And he doesn't know any different. And he's extremely proud. Like you said, he's always like, look what all you've done. I never think of it as what I've done. I think of it as what I needed to do to take care of my family. And for me to move into the areas that I wanted to move into, for me to progress and be a better individual and have the ability to give back to the community or to continue to educate my friends and family. Anything I've received, knowledge, Habitat for Humanity, programs, even my current job, the things they offer, I give back to the community. I post it on my Facebook. I talk about it because knowledge is power and resources help individuals in the moments where you don't even know. Maybe they just need something to eat, or maybe they just need somebody to talk to. So I just love that. I love the fellowship that I get by interviewing with you and talking to you and just being a part of Brightwood, Martindale.
All right. That's the end. I'm going to cut it off and I'm going to come kiss my mama.